I'm Jonathan McKinstry, the head coach of the Uganda men's national team.
Okay, so Jonathan, what attracted you first to African football and then Uganda specifically?
African football, obviously my relationship with African football goes back a decade now, more in fact. I first came to Africa when I was only, I think, 20 years old, to the Right to Dream Academy in Ghana. That was before it was a big, multi-pitch, multi-venue academy. It was a small, old Ghanaian Premier League stadium in Dawu, up in the mountains of Ghana outside Accra. But after that it really grew, but I came and spent maybe a month there whilst I was still at university. And really that sort of started a real interest in African football in terms of just the energy of so many of the players, the intensity that these young boys, 10, 11, 12 years of age, were so just filled with that desire and that commitment to be successful at the game and to change their lives. So that really got me interested. I then obviously went and worked in different places in the UK and America, and then the opportunity came up through a contact made in that initial visit to Ghana to come back to Sierra Leone and set up initially a football academy in Sierra Leone, and then obviously I got the opportunity to coach the national team. And really since then it's went from strength to strength. Like I said, those initial things that attracted me to the African game really haven't changed. The level of quality across the continent, the intensity, just the energy that players have and their determination to make it is so different than you see in some parts of Europe and even America. So, that's at the very base of it. And in terms of Uganda, obviously as a national team, it's a team I've known about for a while, having coached our neighbours Rwanda in the past. And yeah, it was something that came up a few years ago actually. There was a potential opportunity and some conversations. It didn't happen then. And then again, 18 months ago, the opportunity was presented to me once again. And it just, Uganda's a country that again, there's such huge talent there. You even look at the group of boys we've brought to this tournament. I think we're one of the youngest squads at the tournament. We've got a lot of young guys there who, even in the Ugandan Premier League, have maybe only played 20 or 30 games. But the talent is there, and we're starting to see year on year more and more players go outside Uganda to play at higher levels. And so really that growth of the game and the quality within the country, but also the country itself, it's very full of energy, it's very intense, and those are the type of environments I think I thrive in. And so yeah, just that sort of mixture made me feel that Uganda was a place where my skill set would be very worthwhile and would have an impact.
With the exception of the Sekafa Cup and also once in AFCON, i.e. 1978, would it be fair to say Uganda has underachieved? And if so, how do you feel that you are going to change that and bring them up to where you hope they should be?
It's hard for me to really say historically how it is, because I think different parts of Africa have, as different parts of the world, develop at different rates in terms of their infrastructure. I think no one would disagree with me if I said the infrastructure in terms of the facilities in Uganda are below the level they need to be for sustained success. We're working on it, and even today I saw one of the Ugandan Premier League clubs broke ground on a new stadium, and the Federation are working on new training facilities for both ourselves and clubs, and all of this will have a positive impact. But definitely in recent years it's been a challenge. And because of that, you go back 10 years ago, and the majority of the Ugandan national team were playing domestically in the Ugandan League. And when you also consider teams in the Ugandan League maybe don't progress so deep into the CAF interclub competitions, it then lines up that for many years the national team competed well, but maybe didn't take that final step of going to the African Cup of Nations. Now obviously that sort of jinx, that long run of 40 years was broken in 2017, and because of that you're starting to see more and more attention being paid to Ugandan players. And so whereas before we maybe only had a handful of players playing professionally abroad, you now have 30, 35 players, and every year it's getting more and more. Even, had Chan been played at its original dates, there was maybe, I think, 5 players from our starting lineup that would have played a year ago, but now are playing professionally in Israel, in Spain, in Canada, in all good leagues, in Algeria. And so these are guys that in the last year we've seen 5 or 6 players, young players, move from the Ugandan Premier League into good competitive leagues. So the game is growing, and I think definitely it's about nurturing those young players, giving them the exposure they need, and the more and more players we have playing competitively at the top level, the greater the competition for places with the national team is, and the greater the success will be.
The Chan was said by the former president of CAF, Ahmed, to be a shop window. He wanted it to be a tournament that local players would be seen in, and that it would help get them moves to bigger and better leagues and highlight African football. Do you think he succeeded in that?
Yes, I think so. Ultimately, I think a lot of players, I even look at the players when I last coached at this tournament in 2016 with Rwanda, and the players who we noted down during the tournament that we thought, every coach keeps a little black book of names, in case you're in a club environment in the future that you might want to sign. And the players that we noted down, the majority of them are now playing in Europe or Asia or top leagues, and they're competing, they're doing very well. And even the Rwanda team I had at the time, several players moved out of Rwanda, either to other African nations, or some went up to Europe after that tournament. And that is in essence the purpose of the tournament. As you said, a shop window to give exposure. Now, does it happen for every team that come here? No. But the reason for that is different teams and different federations, I feel, approach the tournament differently. I said to one of your previous questions, the average age of our team here is around 23. We've got a lot of boys who are 19, 20, 21. 2 of our players will go straight from this tournament to the U20 AFCON tournament, where our guys are already starting to prepare. So we intentionally brought a primarily young team with a few experienced heads, almost like an Olympic team, if you will. But there are other teams at the tournament who've selected, average age of 28, 27. So, and okay, those teams might go on and win the tournament, but will those players be picked up to move to that higher level? So it's a balancing act. You want to do well at the tournament, but you want to give players exposure. So that's what we're trying to do with our approach to it. But I also think, as a concept, Chan is a fantastic concept. And I know there's always debate about the international football calendar and how do different competitions fit within the normal football, the club calendar. But I hope that Chan's a tournament that's around for a long time to come, because it's one that really can give players the exposure that they crave.
Did part of you feeling sad for Uganda, but also celebrate the success of Rwanda in getting to the knockout stage?
I think celebrate would be the wrong word. You've got to remember, a lot of those Ugandan or Rwandan players I get their debuts to. So, a number of those players in 2016 were only 19, 20, 21 years of age. Olivier Quizera, who made a wonderful save to keep them in the game a couple of nights ago against Togo. I think he was 19, 20, and we had him in the squad in 2016. So for boys like that, who I know work honestly, work tirelessly at their football, and I've remained in contact with them since I left that job, I'm really happy for those boys that they are fulfilling that ambition that they have. And so, yeah, I'm pleased because of those personal relationships with those players. I'm pleased that they're making that step in their career.
The Zambian legend Kalusha Bwalia once said he wanted to see the CHAN expanded into allowing players from various countries who were still playing in Africa to be allowed to be selected for the CHAN. Do you think that is a good idea and that that would actually help to improve the quality of the tournament?
It's an interesting one. It's not one I've really come across before. I've not seen that from Kalusha before, but it is an interesting one because, for example, the challenge we have in Uganda is that economically, Uganda, in terms of salaries, not just in football but across all industries, is lower than our neighbouring countries of Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda. So what you see in Uganda is we see a number of players move from the Ugandan Premier League to, say, the Tanzanian League. The league in Tanzania is not stronger than our league, but they pay bigger salaries. And so you see boys moving to an on-par level of football purely for the money. And for that, and I understand it, I don't criticize anyone for that because you have families to look after, you have to make these decisions. But I sometimes wonder, those players are taking, the early opportunity to earn money at the behest of the opportunity to go and get the exposure that CHAN might offer. So yes, it would keep the door open for some other players so that they don't have to make that difficult decision maybe so early in their life. And I think, look, would it improve the quality of the competition? It possibly would, because you would have a bigger pool of players. But at the same time, I think there is something nice to be said about it's league versus league almost. It's the Ugandan Premier League's players versus the Rwanda Premier League's players. I think that also has its up points, has its good points.
Well, your goalkeeper played very well in the only match I actually saw him play against Morocco. But if you had what Kalusha Bwalia was saying, you would have your national team captain, the Uganda national team captain, Dennis Onyango, would be available. Would that help in terms of, even if